Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's our passion to help others uncover natural ways that can improve your overall quality of life. Healthy eyes and good eyesight is really important for us, especially as we age. And even if you have been seeing 20/20 in all your life, vision begins to change between 40 to 60 years of age. And while poor eyesight may seem inevitable, there are things you can do to prolong your vision. This is why we're really excited today to be joined by Dr. Sam Berne. Dr. Berne is a holistic optometrist with a private practice in New Mexico. And his Instagram page has so many great tips about nutrition, eye therapy, and other ways to promote better vision. So we're going to dive deeper into natural eye health today. So I see. Oh,
Hey,
hello. Hi, Dr. Byrne. Thank you
hi.
so much for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure. How are you today?
Good, good. How are you? How are you?
I'm doing great. Really
Yeah,
well.
tell us a little bit about your background and then like how you became an optometrist.
Yeah, it started when I was about 8 years old and I had a learning and reading problem. And my mom took me to an ophthalmologist and I got some nearsighted glasses. My eyes got progressively worse. I became a memorizer in school. And when I graduated optometry school, I met a holistic eye doctor. And I started his physical eye therapy. And he said to me, the reason why you have a reading and learning problem is your left eye drifts out. And I can help you improve that skill. And also, he said, because you're nearsighted, this is all related to stress and tension. So, about 6 months later, I said goodbye to my contact lens prescription and I see 20/20 at distance and near and my reading problem went away. And so it inspired me at that point to open a practice in the Philadelphia area, specializing in helping people improve their vision. And many twists and turns to now, studying a lot of natural therapies, acupuncture,
Mhm.
craniosacral functional medicine, aromatherapy, energy medicine. And I'm based in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and discovered the internet in 2016 and started to post on social media, opened an e-commerce store. And so, I've got a nice following and here to help people. That's my mission, to help people realize there's another answer besides, oh, your eyes are going to get worse when you get
Mm.
old and you're going to need bifocals and cataract surgery and you're going to go blind. No way. My patients are getting better as they get older. So I'm here to share any information that your audience wants and what your questions are. And here we go.
Wow, this is so awesome because like natural functional medicine based eye care, we have like not a lot of people are aware of that. So like what's the difference between the conventional and this holistic approach
Yeah,
to
the
optometry?
conventional approach is very medical based. So the first thing out of their toolbox is surgery or pharmaceuticals, and it's more of a symptom based, disease based type care. You go to your eye doctor and he or she may spend 5 or 10 minutes with you at the most. Which lens is clear, one or two? And you get number two and you wear it and your eyes get worse. And, you ask, are there any things I can do? And so the conventional doctor is too busy and just treats symptoms. In my field, I'm looking at the root cause. I spend an hour with each patient, sometimes more, and I'm evaluating their vision, not just their eyesight. So that's a distinction. Eyesight is seeing 20/20. Vision is how the eyes and the brain and the body work together based on a set of skills. And the brain is very involved with this, the body, the balance, the nutrition and stress. So I look at all these different factors and then come up with a treatment plan that will address the cause. And then the eyes get better, the vision gets better. It's pretty simple and it's so effective. I've been doing it 35 years. And every week I get a testimonial. My eyes got better.
Oh wow.
My cataract reduced. My macular degeneration has gone away. So I've got a lot of success stories of people who have been in my protocol and have improved their vision.
I know you're seeing private patients, but you also have a book coming up, which will be available to many, many more people. I know it's going on pre-sale on December 12th, called Vital Vision, Clear-Eyed Solution for Midlife and Beyond. So, and in this book, you had a great quote. Instead of accepting your diagnosis as a life sentence and smothering it with drugs and surgery, your regenerative capacity can create new healthy pathways. So how does this work? What does that mean to you?
Well, the retinas are the only part of the body where we can actually see the brain. The eyeball originates from the brain, so every part of the structure of the eye is brain tissue. And there is a neuroplasticity potential in the eyes. And if we give it the proper nutrients, blood supply, circulation, oxygenation, that the eyes will get better. Case in point, there was a study that was published last year on
Mhm.
having a person look at red light for 3 minutes once a week for 12 weeks, and their retinas got better. Their visual acuity improved by 22%. This was a group in the UK, University College of London, that prove that you can actually change your vision by looking at color therapy. The
Hmm.
retina is made up of photoreceptors, of mitochondria. And when you feed the eyes with light or different antioxidants, it starts to improve. It gets better. So that's what I was saying, because patients are so frustrated if they have even something simple as pink eye and the doctor wants to give them steroids. Well, no, steroids is going to raise your eye pressure. It's going to possibly cause a cataract. But you could use an eye bright compress. You could use a castor oil massage. You could use some natural homeopathic eye drops and
Mhm.
avert pink eye without the side effects of the pharmaceutical, which is only going to keep the problem in place. So that's what I was talking about. And it is even with contacts and glasses.
Mhm.
A prescription in contacts or glasses, it's approved by the FDA. It's a prescription. It's got side effects. And one of the side effects when you wear lenses is it's going to make your eyes worse. It's going to make them tighter, more tight, less relaxed. And so by doing some physical eye therapy, you can reduce your dependency on your lenses like I did. If I can do it, you can do it. And by doing that, you are going back to your ability to see things without all this stress and blurred vision and eye strain that more and more people are suffering today. And that's the space I'm holding.
That's amazing. So you mentioned a little bit about brain health too. So what role does eye health play in brain health and vice versa?
Well, in our visual processing, we take in the information, we process it in the brain, and then we have an output. And our brain is so interconnected and interrelated to our eyes. As I said, the eyes are kind of the external representation to the brain. And whether it's, feeding your brain with more omega-3 fatty acids or paying attention to the neurochemicals like dopamine and serotonin, all of these things that are going on in the brain affect our eyes, just our mental thinking. If we
Mm.
have chaotic thinking in the brain, that's going to affect a chaotic experience in our eyes and vision. And so the eye brain connection is super important because our eyes navigate us through the world. It's our GPS system, and our brain is processing that information. It's helping us with our depth perception, our memory, our visual reaction time. So when we do physical eye therapy, we have to include the brain in the equation when we're improving our eyesight and vision.
That makes sense. So what are some like daily practices that we can do to train our eyes to be stronger?
Well, number one, I think get at least 30 minutes of natural sunlight every day. Get out into nature. Number two, it's important that you eat a rainbow diet of vegetables and including a few fruits, but be very careful about the sugar because so you want to reduce the high glycemic sugars because that is a real poison for your eyes. Number three, I would take frequent breaks from your screen time. When we're focused for long distances at a screen, it's going to create eye strain and it's going to lower our circulation. And then last but not least, I think it's important to talk to your eyes. I know this sounds kind of strange, but for many people, when they come and see me, the first thing they do is they tell me everything that, they're worried about their eyes. They've got this problem, they've been told that. And over time, to be able to converse with your eyes and start sending messages that I embrace my blur, I love my blur, I love my vision, I can improve my vision at any age because what we say to our eyes eventually starts to affect the physical structure of the eyes. And I've seen this over and over again. And fear is probably one of the worst emotions around our eyes because we're all afraid we're going to go blind. And so getting a handle on that, exploring, for example, there was a patient I had yesterday and I gave her some flower remedies to help her with her fear. And this morning I got an email and she said, "Boy, I have a new lease on life. I'm not as fearful around losing my eyes. In fact, I'm embracing my clarity today." So that was a whole shift. So it's a mind body experience. Stress is part of it. So being aware of stress reduction and being mindful and taking care of your eyes and not abusing them by just forgetting about them and saying, well, I'm going to work all day and night and not take breaks, not drink water, not eat the proper foods. These are all things that build up and the deterioration of our eyes.
You're actually hitting on some of the questions that our audiences ask. Is anxiety and eye health, and also obviously all these tips will play into how to combat with dry eyes as well. It's all your lifestyle and also diet.
Yeah, so dry eye is a very interesting syndrome because with dry eye, there's usually some low grade inflammation going on,
Mhm.
perhaps in the eyelids. When we're under stress, our sympathetic nervous system is overworking. So that's our fight or flight freeze response. So that's going to dry us out. And sometimes there's an inflammation actually in the eyelids
Mhm.
that prevents us from producing the tears that keep our eyes from evaporating. It's the lipid part of
Mhm.
our tears. And one of my exciting things that I'm doing now is I've just created a certified organic castor oil eye drop. And people are loving this because it actually replaces the lipid part of the tears. So there's less evaporation. It also addresses the inflammation in the eyelids. Another thing we're finding is that sometimes there's an endocrine imbalance in why we get
Mhm.
dry eye. Now, it could be a thyroid problem, it could be actually too much or too little testosterone, as an
Mm.
example. Of course, not getting enough omega-3 fatty acids is another piece of the puzzle. And we'll talk about this later, but the ill effects of blue light on our eyes when they're emitted from screens can actually create a drying effect
Mhm.
on our eyelids and cornea. So we have to be kind of a detective in figuring out what are the causes and then start giving some things that are treating the cause, not just the symptom.
Right. There are many
Yeah.
things everyone can just do immediately, right? You mentioned about diet and lifestyle. So what are some like key nutrients that's important for eye health?
Well, there's beta carotene and vitamin A. There's lutein and zeaxanthin. These are the plant carotenoids that we find in the red and orange
Mhm.
family of vegetables. Vitamin E is very important. Vitamin C has been shown in high levels that will prevent or reduce the risk of cataracts and floaters. We can talk about floaters
Oh,
later.
yes.
Zinc is a very important trace mineral that helps the vitamin A get absorbed. Also, things like bilberry. So, berries, blueberries, strawberries, those are great for retina health. And glutathione is another one, a master antioxidant. Where do we get that? In our cruciferous vegetables,
Mhm.
in the trace mineral selenium. So, you know, to navigate by eating the rainbow type of diet and making sure we're non-GMO, organic,
Mhm.
if we're going to do meats, grass-fed or organic as best as we can. Make sure you drink enough water daily.
Mhm.
Even things like ginger and turmeric, curcumin is very supportive for the eyes. Saffron is a spice that's also excellent for macula health. In fact, I'm so high on it that I made it into a supplement and
Oh
we
wow.
use it as a prevention for macular problems, macular pucker, macular degeneration. So think colorful vegetables, and that's a good start.
These are all actually pretty much coincides with all the tip we also recommended to our users for detoxing. So
Yeah,
it's really amazing that all these things just connect totally.
totally.
So now we briefly mentioned about floaters. What exactly are floaters, and then why do we get them?
Well, floaters occur in the vitreous gel sac, which is a gel that sits between the retina and the lens of the eye. It's in the posterior two-thirds of the eye. And it's made of mostly water, collagen, proteins. And there are many reasons why we develop floaters. It can just be age related, where the vitreous gel sac begins to shrink. And in that case, it can pull away. We call that a posterior vitreal detachment. And a lot of people get those. Another reason is if you're highly nearsighted, that can be a cause. Also, if you've had cataract surgery or a vitrectomy, those eye surgeries can trigger floaters. Even certain medications can trigger floaters. Heavy metal toxicity is another reason, head trauma. So there's a lot of reasons why we develop floaters. And the good news is there are some things that you can do to reverse them. And I'm going to go through my list. Number one, back to vitamin C. You want to make sure you're getting enough vitamin C daily. I would recommend about 2,000 milligrams a day. Hyaluronic acid, you can actually get that in an eye drop. It's called Hylatears. It's by a company called Hyalogic. My MSM eye drops are fabulous for improving vitreous health, either the 5 or the 15%. The MSM works great. And then adding those nutrients in, as I talked about, beta carotene, lutein,
Mhm.
zeaxanthin, A, C, and E, protecting your eyes against the damaging blue light. And one of the things that you're interested in and that you do is the liver detox. So liver and eyes go together in acupuncture. Also, if there is a problem with floaters, I would recommend having your kidney meridian checked. Many times there's a kidney chi stagnation related to having floaters. So, and by the way, acupuncture can work very well for many eye conditions, including eye floaters. The biggest thing is be patient. There may be that you need to apply more than one thing to getting rid of the floaters, and it takes time. It's not an overnight change. But if you add many of these things that I'm recommending, you will reduce your floaters and take a look at your stress level and your screen time. Because a lot of times, as you move away from the stress and the screens, your floaters disappear. Oh, one more. This is the most important one, lymph health.
Mm.
So when we sit all the time and our lymph gets stagnant, the has its own lymphatic system. So even doing some eye exercises where you're doing eye movements, that can help reduce the floaters. And a new one that just came on the radar is pineapple. There was a study that people who ate pineapple, it's the bromelain in the pineapple,
Mhm.
that also showed some positive results in reducing floaters. So have your daily dose of pineapple or bromelain. So here we go. I just named a dozen things that people can do to reduce floaters, and you don't have to live it out. As again, you go and the doctor says, "We got floaters. There's nothing you can do." And here I'm giving 12 things that can work really well. So that's the story on floaters.
That is amazing. So what does a consultation with you look like? Because I don't think people will want this personalized, treatment
Yeah,
plan for themselves.
they do want that. Well, you know, since COVID and even before COVID, I was doing a lot of telemedicine. Not everybody can travel to New Mexico. And so if we do a telehealth or telemedicine, I get the records, the eye records beforehand, and I study those. And then when we have our session, we have some action steps that we want to take with the patient around what are their goals. We take a look at their prescription and make some recommendations. Like I like to get people away from progressive lenses at least part of the time, balancing the lenses, reducing astigmatism. And now my in-office patients, of course, in the vision exam, we're testing things like visual coordination, depth perception, visual reaction time, the health of the vestibular system as it relates to vision. That's our inner ear. They're very intertwined. Some things in visual memory and other perceptual tests. And coming up with a lens prescription where they experience relaxation with good acuity. And that's the difference. A lot of times, the prescriptions that people get are way too strong.
Mhm.
And so by getting a prescription that's balanced and that you feel relaxed in your eyes and your body, that's going to keep your eyes healthy and you won't need stronger lenses if you follow that way of that method of prescribing. So there's a lot of things. Sometimes I'll do biochemistry testing. We can do urine analysis, hair analysis, because I really feel strongly about how nutrients affect our eyes.
Mhm.
And sometimes we do a visual fields test and other things. It's very individualized based on what the history is. What are people struggling with? What are they dealing with? And then based on that, another area that I'm specialized in is traumatic brain injury.
Mhm.
And this came about when I was starting my practice in Philadelphia. I couldn't get any patients. It's a very conventional place where I was practicing. So I went to the local hospital and I had volunteered to work with the outpatient people who had suffered traumatic brain injury. They had
Mhm.
double vision, they couldn't balance. And within 3 months, by applying my physical eye therapy, they were home. They were back at work.
Wow.
And so the hospital realized this. This was very unheard of that somebody like me could do this. So they gave me a contract in like 3 hospitals around Philadelphia. And that's how I built my practice because I was working with all these TBI patients, sports,
Mhm.
concussions, car accidents, people with stroke and, brain problems. These particular physical therapy techniques that I learned were so effective in helping people regain not only their eyesight, their balance, their vision, their focus, their driving, their reading. And so TBI is another area. And then the last area I really like to work with is the spectrum disorders, autism to ADD. I work with a lot of special needs kids. I consult at a facility nearby here in Albuquerque and have worked with special needs kids for years. And I tell you, applying the physical eye body therapy with them, I mean, it's life changing. So many success stories helping kids who have been struggling and were written off as special needs, whether it's Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, or just kids who have developmental delays. So it's a wide ranging net of being able to help people because vision is such a dominant
Mhm.
sense. And, the way it's being treated now is statically. And I treat it as a very dynamic skill set that you can improve. And so that's kind of the contrast of what regular eye care does versus what I do.
That is so amazing because you are also not only just improving this individual's quality of life, because everything you described that has so much to do with the person's quality of life, but also the family's quality of life.
Yes,
Uh,
it's
besides the importance of the vision.
yes,
Um,
exactly.
and you mentioned about the castor oil eye drops. I know you have many different types. How do you know which one to use?
Well, through trial and error and clinical training over many, many years, I was a chemist in college. And so when I got out of school, I knew that MSM as a sulfur molecule helped reduce inflammation in the joints. People were always taking MSM powder. So I was able to create an MSM in an eye drop and I started to give it to my patients and their red eyes would go away, their dryness would go away, their floaters went away. And I knew that during the day, this was a really solid eye drop that didn't create the deterioration, it actually supported the eyes to lubricate and moisturize better. And then at night, people were complaining that my eyes are dry. I wake up with them stuck together, and so this is where I had studied castor oil on the body. You've probably heard castor oil packs
Mm-hmm.
for digestion. So I was able to get an organic castor oil, and through different trial and error, we started to have people massage it on the outside part of the eyes, the eyelids. And everybody was coming back saying, my eyes feel more moist, my dryness is going away. So then I created this eye drop, and because when you do the eye drop at night, it kind of works its way through the eye while you sleep, so it's a little thicker. But people wake up and their eyes are moist and they're clear, they're white, and so the MSM and the homeopathic eye drops daytime, and then the castor oil more towards the evening. And then when I started to look at herbal medicine, things like echinacea and golden seal and uh, eye bright, we made these into compresses for people, and they would put over the eyelids, and that also helped the dryness, the redness, even certain types of pink eye and styes. And I would compare that by using steroids or antibiotics, and I always came back to the herbs. They seemed to work better.
Mm-hmm.
People would get better faster. They wouldn't have the side effects, and they wouldn't have reoccurring conditions. So it was a no-brainer that plant-based medicines work well. And so I started to incorporate those into either during the day or in the evening, based on the severity of the condition, the symptoms, and what people were, open to doing. And so today, I'm always looking for new things to help people
Mm-hmm.
support their eyes to get better, and not just take a drug or do the surgery right away, because there's side effects to those and they're not really getting to the root
Mm-hmm.
cause.
Right. We have one question from the audience said you mentioned helping patients improve vision that had a brain trauma. Have you seen improvements in patients that have had eye trauma?
Yeah, definitely. With eye trauma, this is a very interesting scenario, because the eye is mostly made up of soft tissue,
Mm-hmm.
connective tissue, and it absorbs a lot of the traumas that maybe occur indirectly other places. And of course, I've worked with football players and boxers and people who have just had eye trauma, and it takes time. You can do things like color therapy works well,
Mm-hmm.
craniosacral therapy. I am a craniosacral therapist. If somebody has had a trauma, immediately go get some body work, get some
Mm-hmm.
cranial work, and that will get rid of the trauma. It'll release it, so then the circulation improves. So it's dependent, it's partly perhaps energetic medicine, it's partly nutrients, it's partly maybe body work. But even with eye trauma, you can begin to release it, and maybe over a period of weeks, you can return to your, regular routine. But absolutely, physical vision therapy is great for TBI and vision problems.
Mm-hmm. So what are your blue blockers?
So this is an interesting question, because about 5 years ago, people started to they would come in the office and they were really complaining of computer vision syndrome. And
Mm-hmm.
my eyes are getting tired, I'm having difficulty sleeping, and my eyes are always red. And so I started to dig into the literature, and I started to take a look at the lower frequency of the blue light, like 405 to 455. And there were some studies that said that this chaotic blue light could damage tissue in the body. So I put two and two together, and I said, I bet that if we could come up with a blue blocking filter, something that deflected the blue light, that some of these eye strain symptoms would go away. So I worked with my optical lab, and we came up with something. And at first we used the tints, but people complained that it was too dark.
Uh-huh.
And then I realized the pupils would dilate when they would wear this dark tint. So I went back to the drawing board and I said, well, let's just make a filter on the back of the lens. It'll be UV, it'll, block the UV, and it will reduce the glare. and it will get rid of most of the blue light. And that's the one I've stayed with. And so I've used it on thousands of patients. And then when I opened my e-commerce store, I said, well, I want to make it available to the masses. And so the blue blocking filter does not change the color, but it does block the damaging blue light. Now it's not 100%, but it blocks enough of it where it reduces the symptoms. And probably the critical time is after 6 p.m. because blue light does affect our melatonin, or can affect our melatonin production,
Your sleep quality.
our sleep. And so that's when we really focus on it. But there are two other points I want to make that people might not know. If you're scheduled for cataract surgery, you've had cataract surgery, many times they don't put the blue blocker in the new lens. See, our current hardware, our current lenses, your lens and my lens, has a filtering capability of some of the blue light. But in the intraocular lenses in cataracts, they usually don't. And so you're very susceptible to developing retina problems afterwards. I've seen too many of those. And so if you're scheduled for cataract surgery, number one, ask your surgeon if the blue blocker is in that lens. If it's not, then you need to get some blue blocking protection after the surgery, because you're going to be wide open to the blue light exposure. Also, make sure you're supplementing with lutein and zeaxanthin. 16 milligrams a day of lutein, 4 to 6 milligrams a day of zeaxanthin. Those two are like sunglasses. They're pigments that cover the macula that will deflect the damaging blue light. And then number three, natural sunlight does have blue light, but that blue light is good for you. That blue light is helping your circadian rhythms hook in. So not all blue light is bad, but if you're on artificial devices and it's after 6 p.m., even with kids, yesterday I had a child who's had eye strain, and I said, we need to get blue blockers on this fella. He's a video gamer. And, so I think the Blue Protect lens is really good, and it blocks the damaging blue light, but it allows you to see the screen clearly, and it's going to give you more resource and a longer viewing time without causing deterioration, which that's what I'm most concerned about.
I know we're a little bit over, but I actually have one last question. I'd love you to talk about your book, because it's coming up.
Yeah. So this is really interesting, because in the book, what we did was we went through all the social media questions, and we listed, and when I wrote the book, what is the most asked question? What's the second most asked question? And so we took my transcripts of my answers on Facebook Live and Instagram and TikTok, and I created this book. And it's very interesting, because the number one question is the question you ask, which is about eye floaters. So many people ask about that. Anyways, it's a really good read. It's got a lot of helpful suggestions, everything from nutrition to energy medicine, explains the eye condition and what you can do. So I'm really excited about the release of it. And we're going to have some fun things around access to me. If you, buy the book, and for a certain price, you can actually come to one of my events, my live events next year, come to an online workshop, master classes. So we're making it kind of fun and interesting to people, so people can, participate. And we have an audio book and an ebook as well that we'll release early next year. So thanks for asking. I'm really excited about it. And bottom line, I think it's going to really be a great resource for people. If they have a condition, they can look it up and say, okay, this is what I need to do.
We are excited to. We'll make sure we promote. So for now, people can get, they can buy from your website.
Yeah, they'll be able to buy it from my website. We're just getting it right up today. I was working on it. So I'd say by next week or December 12th, you'll be able to buy it. And we'll give you a nice discount if you do pre-sale. So that's another.
And it's perfect date, 12/12.
12/12. Yeah, exactly. Good numbers. Right.
Right. Right. So thank you so much for all this great information today. And we'll make sure we promote, and then we'll also have your website, your bio, everything linked to this Instagram post. Thank you so much.
Okay. You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
All right. Bye.